Hello, YouTubers. Welcome to Level-Headed News. I am your host, Brenda. I have a lot of news for you today. We're going to break this into two episodes today. Of the two. And the first article I have on this one is off of Western Journalism, and it is entitled 40 Electoral College members now calling for intelligent briefing before they vote. 30 additional members of the Electoral College signed their names to a letter Tuesday demanding an intelligent briefing prior to casting their votes for president on December the 19th. 40 electors have now signed the letter, all of them Democrats, with the exception of one Republican, according to The Hill. As reported by Western Journalism, a group of 10 electors requested more information Monday about the ongoing investigation regarding what influence the Russians may have had in the presidential election. In an open letter addressed to Director of National Intelligence James Clapper, the electors stated they would need additional details before meeting December the 19th to formally vote for the country's next president. Christine Pelosi, the daughter of House Minority Leader Nancy Pelosi, is one of the electors leading the effort. The letter reads in part, the electors require to know from the intelligence community whether there are ongoing investigations into the ties between Donald Trump, his campaign or associates, and Russian government interference in the election. Investigations, how far those investigations may have reached, and who was involved in those investigations. A briefing on all investigative findings, as these matters directly impact the core factors in our deliberations of whether Mr. Trump is fit to serve as President of the United States, the letter continues. It concludes, additionally, the electors will separately require from Donald Trump conclusive evidence that he and his staff and advisors did not accept Russian interference or otherwise collaborate during the campaign, and conclusive disavowal and repudiator of such collaboration and interference going forward. Democrat Hillary, or try this again, the campaign of Democrat Hillary Clinton is backing the effort by the electors. On Fox News Sunday, the president was asked about a Washington Post history, or try that again, about a Washington Post story Friday headlined, Secret CIA Assessment Says Russia Was Trying to Help Trump Win the White House. And I might add here that is enough to flip this election. The article goes on and it says, I think it's ridiculous. I think it's just another excuse. I don't believe it. I don't know why. And I think it's just, they talked about all sorts of things every week. It's another excuse, he replied. CIA put out this story that the Russians want, host Chris Wallace followed up. I'm not sure they put it out. I think the Democrats are putting it out because they suffered one of the greatest defeats in history of politics in this country. And frankly, I think they're putting it out. It's ridiculous, the president-elect responded. Clinton campaign and fellow Democrats blamed the Russians for being behind the hack of Democratic National Committee that resulted in embarrassing emails being released by WikiLeaks. The campaign team has supported Green Party candidate Jill Stein's recount efforts in Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, and Michigan, despite the former Secretary of State having described any attempts to undermine the election results as horrifying during a presidential debate in October. The way our democracy works, Clinton said. We have been around for 240 years. We've had free and fair elections. We've accepted the outcome when we may not have liked them, and that is what must be expected. Talking down our democracy, and I, for one, am appalled that someone who is nominee for one of our two major parties would take that kind of position. Additionally, the Democratic nominee has pointed to fake news and FBI Director James Comey as reasons Trump won the election. we have is off of westernjournalism.com. It says Wisconsin recount confirms Trump victory, increases his margin over Clinton. On Monday, Wisconsin vote recount. Here, let me slow her down. Okay. On Monday, Wisconsin's vote recount ended any controversy surrounding President-elect Donald Trump's victory in the traditionally blue state. The press reported that Trump's margin of victory actually increased in the recount, whose results were certified on Monday. The Republican nominee picked up an additional 162 votes in the state, according to the report. Trump earned approximately 22,000 more votes than Democrat opponent Hillary Clinton. Presidential nominee Jill Stein has been the driving force behind the recount efforts, challenging vote totals in Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, and Michigan. She has alleged that voting machines in those states are susceptible to fraud, with no evidence, save for those states usually voting Democrat. Stein raised enough money to initiate the recount in Wisconsin, though courts denied her efforts in Pennsylvania and Michigan. In Pennsylvania, U.S. District Judge Paul Diamond said he rejected the Green Party's lawsuit on numerous grounds. The state attorney general also opposed the effort. Suspicion of a hacked Pennsylvania election borders on the irrational, Diamond wrote in his review of the case, while granting the Green Party's recount bid could ensure that no Pennsylvania vote counts, given Tuesday's federal deadline to certify the vote for the Electoral College. Most importantly, there is no credible evidence that any hack occurred, and compelling evidence that Pennsylvania's voting system was not in any way compromised, Diamond wrote. He also pointed to the lawsuit lack of legitimate standing, calling the 4-week delay in its filing unexpected and highly prejudicial. Thus far, Wisconsin's recount uncovered no widespread voter fraud or hacking. Stein has, however, raised almost $10 million, which is more than she was able to raise through her campaign. Critics have also wondered where that money will go, if not toward recount efforts. Some have even said the recount effort is equivalent to burning money. Stein's campaign doesn't anticipate any leftover funds, though its website indicates that any extra funds will go toward election integrity efforts. Usually, Usually, Federal Election Commission guidelines require campaigns to ask donors if they are willing to have their donations transferred to another fund. Stein's campaign may not have to do so, since it initially specified that leftover funds will go toward these efforts. Stein calls for a recount were a result of nudge from Clinton campaign, but Stein's website says Stein is not seeking the recounts to help Clinton. Rather, the site says these recounts are part of an election integrity movement to attempt to shine a light on just how untrustworthy. Try that again. On just how untrustworthy the U.S. election system is. Her recounts, like the 27 that have preceded them since 2000, have thus far shown the opposite, as the final results changed just 0.06%. All I have is off of the Conservative Tribune. It is entitled, Second Ambassador Comes Forward, Explodes CIA Election Claims, Says He Knows Where the Info Came From and It Wasn't Russia. The liberal media have been playing up a report by the Central Intelligence Agency that hackers aligned with Russian government had allegedly provided Julian Assange with the hacked emails his website WikiLeaks published during the fall, but a former British ambassador is going public again to blow the story out of the water. As WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange has made, the leaks did not come from the Russians. Former Ambassador Craig Murray wrote on his blog Monday morning, adding that he had direct access to the original source. Countless times, they're not hacks, they're insider leaks. There is a major difference between the two. Now, both Julian Assange and I have stated definitively the leak does not come from Russia. Credibly have access? Yes, very obviously. Very, very few people can be said to definitely have access to the source of a leak. The people saying it is not Russia are those who do have access. Where the hacks originated had no real bearing on what they had revealed, which was that both the Democrat Party and the failed Democrat presidential nominee Hillary Clinton were corrupt and had not connived with the DNC to fix the primary schedule to disadvantage Bernie, had not received advance notice of live debate questions to use against Bernie, had not accepted massive donations to the Clinton Foundation and family members in return for foreign policy influence, had not failed to distance herself from some very weird and troubling people, then perhaps she would have won, Murray added. It felt as if the lightning speed spread of this unconfirmed Russian hacker conspiracy among liberal media outlets was therefore nothing more than an attempt by liberal Democrats and their media sycophants to deflect blame on this epic loss. And there is video in this if you would care to take a look at that at your leisure. Here, there we go. Murray's post was the second time in 2 days that former ambassador had cast doubt on the theory. On CBS News, John Bolton, former U.S. ambassador to the United States, conspiracy theory might even be a potential false flag. Clear to me, just viewing this from the outside, that this is hacking into the DNC and the RNC computers was not a false flag operation, he said, implying that the Obama administration was working in tandem with liberal media to mislead the public, to distract them from other things. And the official, or try that again. As for Assange and the officials in Russia, both have reportedly denied allegations they have conspired to interfere with the 2016 presidential election. Rejected the hacking accusations, while the WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange has previously said the DNC leaks were not linked to Russia, The Guardian reported Sunday. And Murray, who has been vocal before about the claim of Russian involvement, minced no words about where he placed the blame for the election. It's terrible that this paranoid nonsense is a once great newspaper, the Washington Post, which investigating executive power now is a sounding board for totally evidence-free anonymous source briefing, a better bull from the executive, he wrote. Oh, okay, it says, please share this on Facebook and Twitter, this article. So, you know, there you have people that are in the know saying that this is garbage. They're going to try a soft coup to flip this thing around. It's going to be interesting to see where this goes. The next article I have is off of Newsmax.com, and it says, Democrats secretly worked with Russia to oppose my dad. Let's hack the 2016 election. The CIA, President Obama, and the media think so. What did we learn from the hacked emails? Well, we learned that Hillary Clinton maintained both a public and private position, one for voters and one for Goldman Sachs. We learned that the DNC conspired against Bernie Sanders in the Democratic primary. We learned about the corrupt inner workings of the Clinton Foundation. In short, we learned the truth. Sure, it's offensive that foreign power manipulate American election, but it's not all that different from what President Obama did in 2015, sending $350,000 of U.S. taxpayer dollars to a group called One Voice, supposedly to further peace efforts in Israel. The money was actually spent on failed attempt to unseat Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin. President Obama and One Voice tried to smear I can't pronounce that guy's name. Netanyahu. I always have a problem with that one, with lies. Or by contrast, the hacked emails, though stolen, clearly Democrats are not opposed to manipulating elections. They are only opposed to losing elections. This is written by Michael Reagan, by the way, Ronald Reagan's son. It says, when my father, Ronald Reagan, was president, Democrat politicians secretly connived with the Soviets in failed attempts to manipulate elections and defeat Ronald Reagan. Former intelligence officer Herbert dug through the Soviet archives after the fall of the USSR and uncovered secret documents written by the KGB agent Viktor Chekhov. The documents revealed that Senator Kennedy had sent a friend, former Senator John Tooney of California, to contact the KGB. Tooney's mission: undermine then President Jimmy Carter. On March the 5th of 1980, as Kennedy was challenging Carter in the primaries, Tooney met with KGB and urged the Soviets to sabotage Carter's foreign policy efforts. It's amazing, two high-ranking Democrats, a sitting U.S. senator and a former senator, sought Soviet help in undermining American foreign policy and manipulating an American election. 1980 stated that Kennedy offered to condemn President Carter's policy toward the Soviet occupation of Afghanistan in exchange for KGB help. Of that period proved that Kennedy did, in fact, openly criticize Carter's Afghan policy. President Carter himself was also willing to jump into bed with the Soviets in the closing days of the 1980 presidential campaign. While trailing Ronald Reagan in the polls, Jimmy Carter sent a industrialist Armand Hammer to a secret meeting with Soviet Ambassador Antonij Dobrin. The embassy in Washington, Hammer asked the Soviets to help Carter win votes in key states by allowing Jewish refuseniks to Israel. The Soviet rejected Hammer's request. In January of 1984, former President Carter approached Ambassador Dobrin in person. Carter wanted to derail President Reagan's defense buildup and ask for help from evil empire in unseating President Reagan. It's not clear if the Soviets gave Carter what he wanted. Speaker of the House, Thomas Neal, he privately told Ambassador Dobrin that it was in everyone's best interest if Soviets would help the Democrats keep that demagogue Reagan from being reelected. O'Neill warned Dobrin that the primitive instincts of the dangerous man would plunge the world into war. It must have amazed Antonij Dobrin that these prominent liberals, Ted Kennedy, Jimmy Carter, and Tip O'Neill, all viewed President Reagan as more dangerous than any communist dictator. All observed that Soviet archives showed the lengths to which some on the political left were willing to go to stop Ronald Reagan. Why did the KGB documents come to light? They surfaced because Ronald Reagan toppled the evil empire, ended the Cold War, and thwarted the joint Democrat-Soviet effort to manipulate the election. Fast forward to 2016. The Democrats are desperate to blame their election loss on Russian interference. President Obama has ordered a complete investigation and says he wants a report on his desk before he leaves office. Well, Mr. President, I wanted to have all the information, including how the Democrats tried to manipulate the U.S. elections in 1980 and 1984 with the help of the Russians. Doesn't it? Especially if you're a Democrat. And then it says, Michael Reagan, the eldest son of President Reagan, is a Newsmax TV analyst, a syndicated columnist, and author. He chairs the Reagan Legacy Foundation. Michael is an in-demand speaker with Premier Speakers Bureau. There is a link if you want to read more of Michael Reagan's work that you can click on in this article. And of course, all these URLs are in the description of this video, so you can check them out at your leisure. The next one we have is off of BizPack Review, and it is entitled Former Army Intel Officer, CIA Director is Playing Political Games. John Brennan is a political animal. Retired Army Intelligence Officer Tony Shaffer alleged Monday that CIA Director John Brennan is playing political games by a secret CIA assessment stating Russia interfered with the election to support GOP President-elect Donald Trump. Speaking MAI Radio Monday, Shaffer claimed that the secret CIA assessment obtained by the Washington Post and described in the article last Friday is a product of Brennan's loyalty to President Barack Obama, the Washington Examiner reports. Political, and I believe that John Brennan is a political animal, Shaffer said. He added that he has been talking with former CIA officials about the report. Everything they are telling me doing this out of loyalty to President Obama. It's about undermining Trump. That's what this is, Shaffer said. It's called information operations, information warfare, and that's what I believe is going on. In an interview Sunday, former CIA Director Michael Morrell the secret CIA assessment of Kremlin-backed interference in the election, claiming the Russian plot was a political equivalent to 9/11. The Russians weren't in Democratic National Committee hack former Clinton campaign chairman John Podesta emails, but have been much more broadly involved in trying to influence the outcome of the election, according to Morrill. In August, Morrill endorsed former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton for president and stated that Donald J. Trump is not only unqualified for the job, but he may well pose a threat to our national security. While the FBI has stated CIA's assessment could be true, there isn't enough evidence, at least to satisfy the FBI, which generally has records, as it's often involved in gathering evidence later leading to criminal prosecution. A U.S. official told U.S. Secretary a U.S. official told USA Today, however, that there have been some differences in ascribing weight to various motives. Some sources told NPR that CIA may not want to share sources or methods used in coming to the conclusion that it has, which may be another reason for the disagreements. Since the picture is still murky, 3 Senate committees have been tasked with getting to the bottom of the foreign meddling claims in a bipartisan manner. The administration, too, has requested a review of influence attempts. This review must be completed by January the 20th before Trump takes over the White House. It's also off of BizPac Review, and it is entitled Rush Limbaugh Says, Don't Tell Me That the CIA Isn't Politicized When Everything the Hell Else Is. Rush Limbaugh projects could be the president-elect's first big mistake. Donald Trump has been openly critical of sources within the CIA who are suggesting that Russian agents may have interfered with the U.S. election. People that said Saddam Hussein had weapons of mass destruction read a Trump transition team statement on Saturday following the news. Building on that theme, radio show, Limbaugh weighed the seeming politicization of everything these days with the fact that most people in the America Intelligence Committee or community are patriots who want to do what's right. At the CIA have a political agenda that defines their actions. As an example, Limbaugh gave his listeners a history lesson on the same topic Trump used in his statement. And here it goes. It says, let's examine weapons of mass destruction in Iraq. George W. Bush spent 2 years, ladies and gentlemen, traveling this country, speech after speech after speech, explaining his policy. The run-up of the war, or the run-up to the war with Iraq, what it would take for Saddam Hussein to avoid war. 11, Bush said, we've got no choice. When we have intel that bad actors around the world might be planning attacks against us, we're not going to wait any more for the attacks to happen. We're going to take preventative action. And parcel of this was that intelligence agencies all over the world, folks, not just ours, the UK, the CIA, the DIA, the State Department, IA, all of these intelligence agencies, Pakistani, allied security agencies, intel agencies around the world, every one of them concluded that there were destruction, and Hussein was lying to the weapons inspectors from the United Nations. Limbaugh points out that even Hussein himself didn't deny that he had weapons of mass destruction, likely because he never believed the U.S. would actually attack. So, and found nothing. A lot of people were embarrassed and humiliated, including Colin Powell and George W. Bush, all because this false information from the U.S. intelligence agencies, Limbaugh continues. And it says, okay, do we know who lied to who? Did the intelligence agencies not tell Bush there were weapons of mass destruction and Bush ignored them and said that there were? Or did the intelligence agencies tell Bush over and over for 2 years, yep, there were they there and they in Syria. I'm not sure I understood how that read, but that's what it says. We still don't really know. is that George W. Bush approval numbers ended up around 30% as a result of all this. My understanding, my theory that, quote, unquote, intelligent people who by definition are unknown and work in secret can undermine anybody if they set their mind to it. They can promote anybody. They can make anybody they want. They can undermine. They can lie to a president. Mr. Limbaugh, I can't believe you're saying that. These are some people, the people. Try that again. Mr. Limbaugh, I can't believe you're saying that. These are some of the most patriotic people I know. I totally get it, but don't tell me that the CIA isn't politicized when everything else the hell is, particularly with this administration. The next article I have for you is off of Liberty Writers News, and it says top Democrat just went to jail for something sick, and Obama was part of it. Very simple saying, you can judge a man by the company he keeps. That being said, Barack Obama's friends are criminals. Congressman Chaka Fattah of Philadelphia was just found guilty of crimes for bracketeering, money laundering, and mail and wire fraud. He has received 10 years in prison. He used his strong connections to Obama to solicit $18,000 bribe to lobby the president on behalf of Philadelphia Deputy Mayor Herbert Biederman, who wanted to be an ambassador. He even got Obama to host the 2013 Phoenix Awards dinner for him. Fattah's criminal career didn't really kick into high gear until he took an illegal $1 million loan to run for mayor of Philly and then couldn't pay his dues. Oh, he lost the election. Had never been much more than a common thief. He also used $23,000 of nonprofit funds to pay off his son's college loans and spent public money on other personal debts frequently. How tied Obama is to the crimes of Chaka Fattah is up to a court of law, not a newsman like myself. Still, like, really does make you wonder. And the next article I have is also off of Liberty Writers News, and it says, Hillary's emails are back. Plan to make them public. And it says, hey, Hillary Clinton, welcome to your own personal hell. Today, federal judge P. Kevin Castle asked the FBI to turn over the secret warrants used to check the Clinton emails stored on Anthony Weiner's computer. He also told the FBI to send recommended redactions in case he finds anything the public needs to see. According to Daily Mail, E. Randall Schoenberg, lawyer who specializes in recovering works of art stolen by the Nazis, sued to obtain any search warrant and related papers used by the FBI to obtain those emails. Oh, and the government are trying to stop them from obtaining that warrant. Are you surprised? Hillary Clinton likes to she is laying low, but even a blind man can see what she is really doing is trying to overthrow our democracy. Does she actually think we forgot about her crimes? Now, can anyone actually believe there was nothing in those emails? They were in a folder marked life insurance on a computer of a pedophile. Sounds pretty fishy to me. This judge needs the public to be behind him if we ever want to know what was in those damn emails. And that is all I have in this episode, and there will be one more episode to follow. See you then.